Chapter 7. Love. All men on this planet are initiated into love. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another. Ouspensky states in Tertium Organum that love is a cosmic phenomenon and opens to man the world of the fourth dimension, the world of the marvelous. True love is selfless and free from fear. It pours itself out on the object of its affection, demanding nothing in return. Its joy is in the joy of giving. Love is God in manifestation and the strongest magnetic force in the universe. Pure and unselfish love attracts its own. It need not seek or demand. Hardly anyone has the slightest idea of true love. Man is selfish, tyrannical, or fearful in his affections, thus losing what he loves. Jealousy is the worst enemy of love, for the imagination runs wild at seeing the loved one attracted to another, and invariably these fears are objectified if not neutralized. For example, a woman came to me in great distress. The man she loved had left her for other women, and she said he had never intended to marry her. She was torn with jealousy and resentment and said she hoped he would suffer as he had made her suffer, and she added, "How could he leave me when I loved him so much?" I replied, "You are not loving that man, you are hating him," and added, "You can never receive what you have never given. Give perfect love, and you will receive perfect love. Perfect this man. Give him perfect, selfless love without demanding anything in return. Don't criticize or condemn, and bless him wherever he is." She replied, "No, I won't bless him if I don't know where he is." "Well," I said, "that's not real love. When you send real love will come back to you, either from this man or his equivalent, because if this man is not the divine selection, you will not want him. As you are one with God, you are one with the love that belongs to you by divine right." Several months passed, and things remained more or less the same, but she was working conscientiously with herself. I told her, "When you are no longer bothered by his cruelty, he will cease to be cruel, for you are attracting him through your own emotions." Then I told her about a brotherhood in India who never said good morning to each other. They used these words, "I salute the divinity in you." They saluted the divinity in every man and in the wild animals in the jungle, and they never harmed them because they saw only God in every living being. I said, "Greet the divinity in this man and say, 'I see only your divine being. I see you as God sees you, perfect, made in his image and likeness.'" She found that she was becoming more balanced and gradually losing her resentment. He was a captain, and she always called him El Capi. One day she suddenly said, "God bless El Capi wherever he is." I replied, "That's real love, and when you have become full circle and no longer bothered by the situation, you will have his love or attract his equivalent." At the time I was moving and had no phone, so I was out of contact with her for a few weeks, when one morning I received a letter that said, "We are married." As soon as I could, I called her. My first words to her were, "What happened?" "Oh," she exclaimed, "a miracle. One day I woke up and all suffering had ceased. I saw him that night and he asked me to marry him. We were married within a week, and I have never seen a more devoted man." There is an old saying, "No man is your enemy, no man is your friend, all men are your teachers." So one must become impersonal and learn what every man has to teach him, and soon he will learn his lessons and be free. The woman's lover was teaching him selfless love, which every man sooner or later must learn. Suffering is not necessary for man's development. It is the result of the violation of spiritual law, but few people seem able to awaken from their soul sleep without it. When people are happy, they generally become selfish, and automatically the law of karma is put into action. Man often suffers losses due to lack of appreciation. I knew a woman who had a very nice husband, but she often said, "I am not at all interested in being married, but that is nothing against my husband. I just don't care about married life." She had other interests and hardly remembered that she had a husband. She only thought of him when she saw him. One day her husband told her he was in love with another woman and left. She came to me distressed and resentful. I replied, "That's exactly what you said the word. You said you didn't care anything about being married, so the subconscious worked to keep you from getting married." She said, "Oh yes, I see. People get what they want and then feel very hurt." She soon became perfectly attuned to the situation and knew that the two of them were much happier apart. When a woman becomes indifferent or critical and ceases to be an inspiration to her husband, he misses the stimulation of his first relationship and becomes restless and unhappy. A man came to me dejected, miserable, and poor. His wife was interested in the science of numbers and had made him read. It seems the report was not very favorable, for he said, "My wife says I will never amount to anything because I am a deuce." I replied, "I don't care what your number is. You are a perfect idea in the divine mind, and we will demand the success and prosperity already planned for you by that infinite intelligence." Within a few weeks he had a very good position, and a year or two later he achieved brilliant success as a writer. No man succeeds in business unless he loves his work. The picture which the artist paints for love of his art is his best work. The boiler is always something to live for. No man can attract money if he despises it. Many people keep themselves in poverty by saying, "Money means nothing to me and I feel contempt for people who have it." This is the reason why many artists are poor. Their contempt for money separates them from it. I remember hearing one artist say of another, "He's no good as an artist, he has money in the bank." This mental attitude, of course, separates a man from his supply. He must be in harmony with a thing to attract it. Money is God in its manifestation, as freedom from lack and limitation, but it must always be kept in circulation and put to right uses. Hoarding and saving react with grim vengeance. This does not mean that man should not have houses and lots, stocks and bonds, for the barns of the just shall be full. It means that man should not hoard even capital if an occasion arises when money is needed. By letting it go out fearlessly and joyfully, he opens the way for more to come in, for God is man's unfailing and inexhaustible supply. This is the spiritual attitude toward money, and the great bank of the universal never fails. We see an example of hoarding in the movie production Greed. The woman won $5,000 in the lottery, but did not want to spend it. She hoarded and saved, let her husband suffer and starve, and finally made a living scrubbing floors. She loved money in itself and put it above all else, and one night she was murdered and her money was taken from her. This is an example that the love of money is the root of all evil. Money in itself is good and beneficial, but used for destructive purposes, hoarded and kept, or considered more important than love, brings sickness and disaster, and the loss of money itself. Follow the way of love, and all things add up, for God is love, and God is supply. Follow the way of selfishness and greed, and supply disappears, or man separates himself from it. For instance, I knew the case of a very rich woman who hoarded her income. She seldom gave anything away, but bought and bought and bought and bought things for herself. She was very fond of necklaces, and a friend once asked her how many she owned. She replied, 67. She bought them and kept them carefully wrapped in tissue paper. If she had worn the necklaces, it would have been quite legitimate, but she was violating the law of wear. Her closets were full of clothes she never wore, and jewelry that never saw the light of day. The woman's arms were becoming paralyzed from clinging so tightly to things, and finally she was deemed incapable of minding her own affairs, and her wealth was given to others to manage. Thus man, ignoring the law, brings about his own destruction. All disease, all unhappiness comes from the violation of the law of love. Man's boomerangs of hatred, resentment, and criticism return laden with sickness and pain. Love seems almost a lost art, but man with the knowledge of spiritual law knows that it must be recovered, for without it, it has become sounding brass and tinkling cymbals. For example, I had a student who came to me month after month to cleanse her conscience of resentments. After a while, she got to the point where she only resented one woman, but that one woman kept her busy. Gradually, she became more balanced and harmonized, and one day all resentment was erased. She came in beaming and exclaimed, "You can't understand how I feel. The woman said something to me, and instead of being furious, I was loving and kind, and she apologized and was perfectly lovely to me. No one can understand the wonderful lightness I feel inside." Love and goodwill are invaluable in business. For example, a woman came to see me, complaining about her employer. She said that she was cold and critical, and that she knew I didn't want her in the position. "Well," I replied, "say hello to the divine in the woman, and send her love. She said, "I can't. She is a marble woman." I replied, "You remember the story of the sculptor who asked for a certain piece of marble. They asked him why he wanted it, and he replied, 'Because there is an angel in the marble.' And from it, he produced a wonderful work of art." She said, "Very well, I will try it." A week later, she came back and said, "I did what you told me, and now the woman is very kind, and she gave me a ride in her car." Sometimes people are filled with remorse for having done a wrong to someone, perhaps years ago. If the wrong cannot be righted, its effect can be neutralized by doing a kindness to someone in the present. This is what I do: forget what is behind and extend myself toward what is ahead. Grief, regret, and remorse tear the cells of the body and poison the atmosphere of the individual. One woman said to me in great sorrow, "Treat me to be happy and cheerful, because my sorrow makes me so irritable with my family members that I keep making more karma." I was asked to treat a woman who was mourning her daughter. I denied any belief in loss and separation and affirmed that God was the woman's joy, love, and peace. The woman at once regained her poise, but sent word for her son not to treat her anymore because she was so happy she was not respectable. So the mortal mind loves to cling to its sorrows and regrets. I knew a woman who went around bragging about her problems, so of course she always had something to brag about. The old idea was that if a woman didn't care about her children, she wasn't a good mother. Now we know that maternal fear is responsible for many of the illnesses and accidents that come into the lives of children. For fear vividly imagines the disease or situation feared, and these images objectify if they are not neutralized. Happy is the mother who can sincerely say that she puts her child in the hands of God and knows therefore that it is divinely protected. For example, a woman woke up suddenly in the night, feeling that her brother was in great danger. Instead of yielding to her fears, she began to make statements of truth, saying, "Man is a perfect idea in divine mind and is always in his right place, therefore my brother is in his right place and is divinely protected." The next day he discovered that his brother had been very close to an explosion in a mine, but had miraculously escaped. So man is his brother's keeper in thought, and every man should know that what he loves dwells in the secret place of the Most High, and dwells under the shadow of the Almighty. No evil shall befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. Perfect love casteth out fear. He who fears is not perfected in love. And love is the fulfillment of the law.